So the relay that I put in that helps the Kubota mower with its starting issues, the little relay that's buried in here that always gets damaged, it quit. It's not working. And so the motors, it won't start. Now, I'm confident that that's the problem. Did some testing, I ruled it out, and I'm really, really confident that the problem is not the starter itself, because if we go right to the hot, the starter works. Here's another neat thing too. The machine's turned off when it's running now. So we got to turn it on in order to turn it off. Oh, that won't even turn itself off. Oh, freaking wonderful. So when that happens, see this little red lever? That mechanically tells it to turn off. So this also confirms my suspicion that the switch is wonky too. But anyway, back to the starter. Clearly the starter and its solenoid work. And I knew that would be the case. That's not the problem with the machine. It has gremlins in the wiring harness. It is what it is. What concerns me is whenever this doesn't start, somebody will take two approaches to it. One, they'll try to jump start it, and they'll take the cover off the battery on the other side, which doesn't need to happen because you've got hot right here that you can hook to, and there's plenty of places to ground. But that's not gonna make it start. It's not a matter of the battery being dead. It's other issues. The other thing they do is they beat on the starter like it owes them money. Now, there are times when starters wear out or the solenoid wears out and you give it a gentle tap, and it can jar things and get them moving. This has received much more than a tap. See this? I don't know if you can see, but part of the housing here, I should look at the camera and not look at what I'm pointing at. All right, get this stuff out of the way so we can focus. For God's sake, focus. That's broken. That broke part of this casting. See, it's not in focus. I don't know if you can see, but trust me, there's a chunk missing from being beaten on. And there might be marks from the waffle hammer that's hit this before. But also what's really neat is right here. Oh, you don't even need crystal clear focus to see that that's cracked. So, I mean, that starter housing's broken. I'm not going to replace it until it quits. And it might, because the end here is what holds the bearing that keeps the shaft aligned. So it might have to be replaced. And that's a couple $100 part that was just physically abused and damaged when the problem could be fixed with a $5, or I guess they're up to $8 now relay, or whatever's wrong, really wrong in the wiring harness. But anyway, we don't need to beat on starters. If a little tap, like a tappy tap tap, if that doesn't fix it, breaking things will not fix it either. This machine has starting issues. They're in the wiring harness, not the starter. That's well known. If you ever feel like you need to tap on a starter to see if it'll work, because every once in a while starters, as they wear out, get stuck, you tap lightly. Tap on the solenoid. Tap on the starter. Don't pound on it so hard that you break the housing. Well, there's maybe why the relay wasn't working so good. Probably not supposed to have all that schmutz in there. It's interesting, the ignition switch quit and was not turning the stop solenoid on to turn the motor off. So I don't know which stopped the motor or which stopped it from starting completely, but replace this, put a new ignition switch on it because, you know, it does need to turn off. I don't know about the starter. That kind of really sucks. I don't know. Because I believe the bearings or bushings that, you know, hold the end of the shaft are in the end there. So even though obviously it still spins, it still turns the flywheel, if it's not aligned properly, is it going to chew up the flywheel? I don't know. New starter is going to be expensive, but I might have to do it. So then whoever, you know, beat on it can say, "Oh yeah, the starter was bad. See, there's a new starter." And yeah, now the starter's bad. It was not before. What's his name? John Henry started pounding on it. But it's definitely bad now. And I'll wrap it up and find some way to secure it again, I guess. Originally, when I started putting these in, I hung it off this little tab, and it was nice and neat right there, and of course that got busted off. So then I wrapped it up in some conduit, made a little protective sheath for it, and kind of tucked it back so that it wouldn't get busted off. But then, as you can see, it gets packed up with debris. So I don't know. I still want to put a new ignition switch on it because, you know, we do need to be able to turn it off. But I kept the old ignition switch that was getting kind of unreliable. I don't remember exactly what it did. It didn't always work right, but it works now. Hear that click? That's the stop solenoid doing its job, which the other switch does not do. But if we want to start it, there we go. And it turns it off too. Whereas the switch that was in it, the replacement switch, I mean, maybe it was having trouble starting it too. I don't know. But I know that it was not turning it off. Because you turn the key off and you would not hear the stop solenoid click, and also if it was running it would not stop. So I could put it back together with the old switch in there, but I think it's pouring down rain today, so nobody's going to be mowing tomorrow. I'm just going to order a new switch just to be on the safe side so that there's one less thing to worry about, and then hope that the starter holds together. I don't know. It's tempting to try to take it apart and fix it somehow. I don't even know what it's made of. If it was aluminum, maybe I could weld it back together. Maybe I ought to just smear a bunch of JB weld on it. I don't know. The right thing to do would be to buy a whole new starter. Although I wonder if I can buy just the housing, the end housing for the starter. Be a pain in the butt switching everything over, but probably save a couple of bucks, and it would be cheaper than chewing up a flywheel. So I don't know. I guess it depends how much a new starter costs. But it really sucks because no amount of beating on this starter, no amount of beating on that would have fixed the relay or the ignition switch. All right, so now rather than wrapping up the little relay and putting it upside down where it gathered all the crud, I just zip tied it inside to the main hot cable. It's kind of tucked away. I don't know. I mean, back here on the motor, it should not get beat up, but I know for a fact that it does because they've been smashed off before. I mean, like I said, I used to have it hanging on this little tab that I made, so it was, you know, neat, professional looking installation, and it literally got smashed. And they don't work when they're smashed. And then, you know, just trying to let it hang out, well, then it still, I don't know, still got wrecked. So, let's see.